Hey guys, this is EckhartsLadder. Hello and welcome to another video. Now, the recording circumstances today are a little bit weird, so I'm going to lean a little bit heavily on some Halo 3 footage that I recorded earlier today. Now, I might try relying sometimes on video game footage during videos a bit more, especially where there's no relevant B-roll. Like, I'm never going to just throw up footage wherever I can get content easily, but sometimes I think it makes sense. With that being said, today I want to speculate about the Bad Batch and whether the Bad Batch was complicit in Order 66. This to me is a particularly interesting topic because Order 66 has been something that's changed quite a bit from Star Wars Legends and canon, especially when we get to Clone Commandos and whether clones were forced to obey Order 66. So yeah, an interesting topic for today's discussion, I think. So what's this main difference that I'm talking about? Well, in Star Wars Legends, clones did not have an inhibitor chip or anything else in their brain that compelled them without any decision to committing Order 66. You know, we watch Star Wars Battlefront 2, for example, and those cutscenes, and we can see that the clones knew Order 66 was coming and that they basically followed along because that's what they were programmed to do. And to be honest, this is the approach that I actually like the most. I think having an inhibitor chip in kind of ignores the real atrocity of what the Republic did in raising a clone army, which is creating a sentient species that is lacking any sort of free will, that's totally subservient and will commit all these war crimes. But to be fair, I guess the chip sort of does that, just a little less nuanced. Anyway, in Star Wars Legends, Clone Commandos were interesting because besides for being physically better than regular clone troopers in battle, and of course having better equipment, they were also capable of more independent and creative thought, which led to some Clone Commandos not participating in Order 66. The best example of this comes from the excellent book Star Wars Dark Lord: The Rise of Darth Vader, where basically we see Ion Team refuse to carry out Order 66 for various reasons, including quite simply the fact that after having fought with the Jedi for so many battles, it was seemingly impossible to think that they would turn against the Republic and that it must be some form of enemy trap. So we have a Clone Commando team refusing to go with Order 66 because of, honestly, them having a bit more independence and creativity in the way they think. Ion Team is my favorite example because the book is so good, but they were far from the only Republic Commando squad to refuse to comply with Order 66. We also get the Republic Commando novels, which gives us Omega's squad and Yayak's squad, both of whom refused to carry out Order 66 because of personal relationships with Jedi and other members of their squad. That's all Legends though, and there are of course other examples of non-clone commandos, from ARCs to regular troopers refusing to go through with Order 66. However, will that apply to canon? Well, not quite. We know from Star Wars Rebels and Gregor that clone commandos are still implanted with inhibitor chips. We don't know even how clone commandos are selected, whether it's something like ARC troopers that you can eventually be promoted to, or whether they're selected from birth like in Legends. We do know that at least the first clone commando group had some genetic variation, and that many clone commandos also went on to serve in the Galactic Empire. But does that tell us a lot about the general state of clone commandos, and especially when we talk about the Bad Batch, which itself was even stranger than most clone commandos or ARC troopers or other non-standard clone units? Not really. I do think, however, that Star Wars canon is still abiding by the general idea that there are certain clones who are more strong-willed and willing to kind of do some reflection on their service. Now, the difference in canon compared to Legends is that these clones now have the whole inhibitor chip firing that they need to come up against. This is something that apparently you can't just think your way out of, or you can't just work your way out of through strength of will. I mean, even Rex would have done Order 66 had he not had his chip removed. So where does that leave us? Well, I think canon gives us the less interesting possibility. Had this been Star Wars Legends, I think the Bad Batch would have been in a really interesting position. They're not the kind of group that would have willingly went through with an order that didn't make sense. I think they were probably among the most individual and free-thinking clones in the entire galaxy. So if they didn't feel like Order 66 made made sense for the Republic and their general goals, I don't think they would have followed through. That would have actually led to an interesting story, perhaps, where maybe certain members of the group, like say Crosshair, did want to go through Order 66 and the others don't, and the Empire's tracking down those who don't. But instead, I just don't see any way, without foreknowledge of what's going to happen, that the Clone Commandos are able to not participate. Maybe they won't be around Jedi, or maybe they won't have anyone directly to kill, but I do think they will still be affected by the switching on of the inhibitor chips. For my guess of the story, what I think probably will happen is that Order 66 will go off, the Clone Commandos and everyone, including the Bad Batch, will do whatever they have to do, and then afterwards, maybe they'll be able to think about it. It's not clear to me how the inhibitor chips work. Maybe once they're turned on, they're on forever. But I will say, I did get a feeling from the first teaser that not everyone's going to be totally on board with what's happening here, and maybe that's why they end up fleeing the Empire and doing their own thing. I mean, if they're forced to kill civilians or do whatever else, and we do see, interestingly enough, in especially Revenge of the Sith, after Order 66 happens, the clones completely change their demeanor. We see on Utapau, for example, that they start arresting just regular people. So the Order 66 point is not only the massacre of the Jedi, but the switch over from clones, from troopers of the Republic to oppressors and basically militant guards within the Empire. So yeah, I'm guessing that the Bad Batch probably won't be down with that, and maybe that's why they end up looking up Rex, because Rex did not participate in Order 66. It's well known that he escaped with Ahsoka and, well, didn't try to kill her after his ship was out, so maybe they see him as the opportunity to get their head clear just in case a second Order 66 is meant to go down, or maybe because they've got a general sort of fog permeating their brain. It could also be possible that because of the genetic differences in the Bad Batch, that Order 66 just won't fully work, at least on all of them. I think that would also be an interesting possibility. I'm also going to guess, based on the fact that we do see the Bad Batch with Tarkin, that the transition does happen sometime after they've already turned to the Empire, and maybe there's some other event that causes them to eventually defect, or, as I think a lot have theorized, some of them but not all. But again, we'll see. And this is why I'm really excited that there's a very, very long introduction episode. I'm pretty sure it's like 70 minutes long. I'm fairly sure that we're going to go through the final days of the Clone Wars, Order 66, and the escape from the Empire all in one episode, setting up the rest of the series to sort of be its own thing, operating in that sort of midway point between, you know, the Clone Wars and the original trilogy. That, however, is just my opinion. What do you think? Will the Bad Batch engage in Order 66? If not, why? Do they have those inhibitor chips? Gregor certainly did, but the Bad Batch is quite literally built different. Let me know all of that and more down in the comments. Thanks again always for your support, guys. I appreciate you greatly. Till next time, be safe, have a good one, and may the Force be with you.